Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Ashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदामह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथानुतं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते सप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण okay. Okay, so we're reading from
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Dandot. We're reading from Canto 1, Chapter 8, verse 37. Apyadyanastvam svakrete hita prabho jihasasi svitsurudonu jivinaha yesham na chanyad bhavatah padambujat parayanam rajasu yojitam hasam. O my Lord, you have executed all duties yourself. Are you leaving us today? Though we are completely dependent on your mercy and have no one else to protect us, now when all kings are at enmity with us. So if you all recollect, we have been studying the prayers of Queen Kunti. So she's glorified the Lord in many beautiful verses, and now she's concluding. Krishna was about to leave them and go to Dwaraka. So she's saying, you executed all duties yourself. We have not done. Everything you have only done. Now you've done everything, and now are you leaving us today? Why? Because all the kings are at enmity with us, though we are completely dependent on your mercy. So externally, Kunti Maharani will tell the reason why this doesn't look like pure devotional service, right? Because she's asking for protection. Actually, she's asking for protection because she'll say that she's still externally attached to her family, right? Yadus and Pandavas. So anyway, so from our perspective, what we need to understand from this, Prabhupada is writing in the purport. So as pure devotees are completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. And they don't look at anybody else. They'll only think that only Lord can protect. And they're completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. And so some very beautiful lines in the purport. In the material world, to be dependent on the mercy of someone else is the utmost sign of misfortune, right? So in material world, everybody wants to be independent. And in fact, if other people are dependent on us, we feel accomplished, right? So this being dependent is utmost sign of misfortune. But in the case of our transcendental relationship with the Lord, it is the most fortunate case when we can live completely dependent on Him. When we can live completely dependent on Him. Today, we don't have the faith. We don't have the faith to completely depend on Krishna. So we still depend on our own abilities or our own actions, so to speak. Right? If there is any difficult situation, first thing we will think about our own ability. What is the first thing that comes to our mind? What should I do? I should go here, I should do this, I should do that. Right? But we don't think as being dependent on the Lord. In the thought process, Lord doesn't come to our mind at all. So one who is completely dependent on the Lord knows that there is no other, he is the soul. There's nobody else who can protect. Right, and it is implicit in their thought process, that okay, I'm dependent on the Lord. Like Pandavas, I spoke, like when Ashwatthama fired his Brahmastra to kill all the Pandavas very naturally took up their weapons. But it was not with a sense of being independent of the Lord or thinking that it's my ability. That's why Kunti Maharani is saying everything you have only done. The pure devotees are very clearly conscious about the fact that they are not the doers. That it's actually just Krishna's mercy that, whatever is happening. And they might be nimitta, they might be the cause for some action, but they never take any credit for whatever gets accomplished through them. Whatever gets accomplished through them, not what they have done. Because they have this consciousness saying that I'm being used as an instrument. And Lord is just using me as an instrument to accomplish something. And they're happy to be in that state. So completely dependent on the Lord, completely wanting to do what the Lord wants. So the false attempt to become independent of the stringent laws of nature is known as material advancement. What is material advancement? False attempt to become independent. Everything that man is discovering today is to become falsely independent. It's a false attempt to become independent of what? Of the stringent laws of material nature. The nature is imposing so many things on us, and we are trying to find, people in this modern world are trying to find solutions so that they can overcome that law. So for example, people are wanting to find solutions for all kinds of diseases. They want to try and overcome death, or so many problems. There's too much of heat, we'll put air condition. So much of cold, we'll put a heater. All this is to overcome the stringent laws of material nature. Material nature is imposing these punishments, and we are trying to overcome these, become independent. The whole material world is moving on its false attempt of becoming independent. But our real freedom or our real happiness is when we become fully dependent on the supreme will of the Lord. To be fully dependent on the supreme will of the Lord means whatever he wants. Whatever he wants. This is the most fortunate situation. All right. And depend on Krishna. We put our effort, but whatever comes, just accept it. Okay, it's Krishna's will. I'm trying to do my duty, but Krishna wants something else. Okay, I'll accept it. So Prabhupada is saying highest goal of human civilization is to work hard under the guidance of the Lord and become completely dependent on him. Like Pandavas, they work very hard, right, in this battle of Kurukshetra, but they were completely dependent on him, meaning whatever Krishna wants, let it happen. Completely dependent on Krishna doesn't mean that I will not, take out my arrow, I will not fire, I'll just wait for Krishna to take out the arrow, put it in my hand. No, not like that. Completely dependent on him. Anyway, the outcome, what gets accomplished, everything is dependent on him. I'm also dependent on him. Situation is also dependent. Everything depends on Lord. Everything is under his control. So we work hard. We work hard, not for sense gratification. But in, those who are following Varnashrama, then they'll work hard to do their respective duties. Those who are devotees work hard to serve the Lord, serve Guru and Krishna. But result, they're completely dependent on Krishna, right? And even many times, ability also, they're completely dependent on Krishna, because they know, like Arjuna was saying, my ability was itself given by Krishna. That great warrior that I was, archer that I was because of Krishna. Now Krishna has taken away that because it's no longer required. So they understand both ability is dependent on him, result is also dependent on him. So this is complete dependence. So there is no question of false ego here. Neither is it my ability nor is it due to my action. The perfection of life is therefore to become dependent on the will of the Lord, Sanatha, instead of becoming falsely independent, Anatha. So this is very important, dependent on the will of the Lord. Now, how do we know will of the Lord? Will of the Lord is revealed by the Lord himself in scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, by great devotees, by acharyas, by guru. So we have to become dependent on the will of the guru. Whatever guru wants, we should dedicate our life for that. Vyasa Atmika Buddhi Ekeha Kurunandana. Then we will be Sanatha. Otherwise, we'll become Anatha. Anatha is without anybody. We must become Sanatha so that we can always be protected from unfavorable condition of material existence. Now, Prabhupada is saying that why we have to become protected from unfavorable condition. Elsewhere also he says this protection of the devotee is very important because it is for the benefit of the whole world. People have to get benefited by associating with sincere, pure-minded devotees. Now, if such devotees are not protected by the Lord, if the Lord doesn't protect them, who is going to help others? Right? So the Lord himself wants to protect his pure devotees because they are doing his work of, helping the conditioned souls, helping them to go back to Krishna. Right? So that protection is anyway required. And son, of course, pure devotees do not even ask for protection, but the Lord gives because he knows that it's so important. And in the initial stage, we'll be dependent on the will of the Lord. We will not go to demigods. We'll not go to anybody else. We'll dependent on the will of the Lord. Okay, Krishna, if you want, if you will, then let my problem get resolved. This is the best way of living. Not saying like, I want this, so Krishna, do this for me. This is taking service from Krishna. So we have to become completely dependent on the will of the Lord. And thereby we can overcome difficulties of material existence because these difficulties of material existence will divert us from Krishna consciousness. So summary is that we should not try to become independent in this material world. That independence is a reflection of false ego. Trying to become independent. Even for devotees, we have to be completely dependent on the will of Krishna. Completely dependent. We should understand that our abilities are given by Krishna. The results are as ordained by Krishna. And so we become complete Sanatha, dependent on the Lord. And we do our duties. We do whatever services have been given to us with full sincerity. Many times actually my own personal experience has been that Krishna gives abilities beyond what we actually naturally possess. Beyond. All we have to do is just develop a desire to please him. Then we will actually realize that I'm not independent. I mean, this is not my ability at all. It's actually given by Krishna. But when will we experience that? See, suppose say I can jump, say, distance of 5 feet. If I'm doing long jump or something, right? Say I can jump 5 feet. Now, jumping 5 feet is very normal for me. I'll simply very easily jump. This is my ability. This is like inborn ability that I have. But now if I have to jump 6 feet or 5.5 feet, then something else will be required for me. Right? Of course, material people will say, I'm going to do a lot of sadhana. I'm going to do, practice, put effort, train properly, and then I will jump that 6 feet. Devotees will understand that, yes, I might put that effort, but even without putting effort, Lord can make me jump that 6 feet. Why? Because I sincerely want to serve him by jumping that 6 feet, not for my own fame and name. So when we take up something for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna, which is beyond us, 6 feet is beyond my ability to jump because I normally jump only 5 feet. But when I take that 6 feet goal, what happens? The ability to jump will be given by Krishna. Then those devotees who experience that, they understand, oh, this is very nice. I mean, this clearly shows that it was not me. It was Krishna who made me do this, or he used me as an instrument. Then automatically our independence goes down. Our feeling of being independent, my own ability, all this will get squashed. So we have to try. We have to always try to do things for Krishna, for Guru, pleasure of Guru and Krishna, which are beyond our natural abilities. This is called moving away from comfort zone, moving beyond comfort zone. So how do we do that? When Guru says, take this, do this service, just say yes. That's all. Right? But we will use intelligence. No, I can't do this, or because of this, that we'll try to give hundreds of reasons. No, just say yes. And then use intelligence. Oh, now how do I accomplish this? Use intelligence. Krishna has given intelligence. Use intelligence. But then when you start executing that, you will realize suddenly that, Krishna has a plan and it's working out. And that you will just become like, on the waves of like you're sitting on a wave, and the wave is, you're riding the wave, but wave is going by its own will. Like it's going in whatever direction and you're just riding it. So Krishna is just making things happen and you're just there. That's all. You just happen to be there. Right? And that's the beauty of being dependent on Krishna, is that we will let Krishna drive. We'll just hold the steering wheel. That's all. Right? So Kunti Maharani is saying, you've done everything. It's all you. And we are completely dependent on you. Now you want to leave us and go. This is out of love. She's just, she's so much love for the Lord, saying, how can you leave us and go? Now how do I prevent Krishna from going? I will tell something that can bind him emotionally. So this is love, exchange of love between devotee and the Lord. So saying, if I, like, for example, in 10th canto, Dhenukasura, right, Thalavan. So boys wanted Krishna and Balaram to eat the thala fruits. But how did they put it across to Krishna? Saying that, Krishna, we are very hungry. So they know that if we tell Krishna, saying that, Krishna, for your sake, let's go and get the thala fruit, he'll say, no, not required. So what they're saying? They're saying, for us, we are very hungry. Oh, then you say, oh, you are very hungry. Okay, then I'll get it. So devotees know how to serve the Lord, right? But they might, if for us, because we are so engaged in sense gratification, when we hear these statements by pure devotees, we might think that they are also thinking like us. No, they're not thinking like us. But somehow or the other, they want association of the Lord. They want to serve the Lord. So they might speak in, in a way that might seem conditioned, but it's no conditioning. It's just pure love. Right? Kunti Maharani is a great exalted devotee. So she's externally saying, why you are leaving us and going here in trouble? So be with us. Somehow just be with the Lord, serve him. So this is the mood of pure devotees. Okay. Kevayam nama rupabhyam yadubih saha pandavaah bhavato darshanam yarhi rishikanam iveshituhu. As the name and fame of a particular body is finished with the disappearance of the living spirit, similarly, if you do not look upon us, all our fame and activities along with the Pandavas and the Yadus will end at once. So this is externally her attachment to Pandavas and Yadus. Right? So she's saying, please look upon us. Actually, she has nothing for her own self, but because Pandavas are her sons, Yadus are her relatives, so she's very attached to them. And this attachment is actually not material. But Kunti Devi is thinking that it is material because she is attached to relations. But because these are devotees, this attachment is not material. So actually, what she is expressing is not a material desire. She just is that desire to take care for other devotees. So she's expressing that if you don't look upon us, uh, then what will happen to Pandavas and Yadus? Everything will end at once. So Prabhupada here is saying, yeah, so nothing specific in the purport. So this just showing her, attachment to Pandavas and Yadus, but because they are devotees, this attachment is actually spiritual. It's not material. Now, so how can we understand this? For example, somebody is engaged, some devotee is engaged in some preaching activity or some, thing, and we might pray to the Lord saying that, Krishna, please give mercy to the devotee, right? Or somebody is struggling in their material life and trying very hard. We might pray, please help this devotee so that he or she can remain fixed in your service. And so this is that, just that feeling, this affection for other devotees, that we might pray the Lord's mercy, but it will always be for the end will be pure devotional service. So Kunti Maharani is not asking any of this for material fame and name and anything, just because then we can serve you nicely. But we depend on you only for protection. Nobody else can protect us. And that is just showing their complete dependence on the Lord. That's all, right? 39. नेयं शोभिष्यते तत्र यथेदानीं गदाधर त्वत्पदैरङ्किता भाति स्वलक्षणविलक्षितैः. O Gadadhara, Krishna, our kingdom is now being marked by the impressions of your feet, and therefore it appears beautiful. But when you leave, it will no longer be so. So this is the actual, now, her feeling. She's saying that, your beautiful lotus feet, we will not be able to see that if you go away, right? So that is the real feeling. There are certain particular marks on the feet of the Lord which distinguish the Lord from others. The marks of a flag, thunderbolt, goad, instrument to drive an elephant, it's called goad, umbrella, lotus, disc, etc. are on the bottom of the Lord's feet. So there's a detailed description of how many marks are there on the right feet, left feet. So all those things are there. But normally this flag, thunderbolt, goad, lotus, umbrella, these 4 or 5 things are repeatedly emphasized more. There's another purport where there's description about what these signify for the devotee. I can't recollect exact details. We will come to that when it's there, saying that why these are important from devotees' perspective. Each of these has significance for devotees. So that we will discuss later. I can't remember it right off the hand. Ime janapada vruddha supakvaushadhi virudaha vanadri nadyudanvanto he shedante tava vikshitaihi. All these cities and villages are flourishing in all respects because the herbs and grains are in abundance, the trees are full of fruits, the rivers are flowing, the hills are full of minerals, and the oceans full of wealth. And all this is due to your glancing over them. Everything is Lord's mercy. Right? So anything and everything that we see is of any value in this material world is Lord's mercy. The gigantic industrial enterprises are products of a godless civilization. So this is one very important thing. When we read statements like this, it's not just so that we hear and leave it. So we have to not contribute towards the growth of these industrial enterprises as much as practically possible. Right? That is why simple living, high thinking requires us to not depend at all on industry. No, nothing packaged. Nothing from industry. No product is bought from the industry in a completely, farm community, right? But we are living in cities, so we might have to use some of it, right? But not excessively. We use only whatever is required for Krishna service. For example, if we are using a laptop now, it is obviously a product of industrial enterprise, but it is being used for Krishna service. So we will use it, Yukta Vairagya. But for example, especially Matajis for cooking, right? Try to avoid getting pre-prepared powders like sambar powder, this powder, that powder, MTR mix. Avoid all that. Prepare it yourself, or at least buy it from some place where it is little more sattvic. which is done by some people who are God-fearing, who are, best done by devotees. Right? In fact, those who are experts in doing this, you should make it available for other devotees. You can sell it, it's okay. Right? But they reduce the dependency on this industry, on buying things, packaged things from market. Because this is the basis for godless civilization, and we can't keep encouraging it. They cause destruction of noble aims of human life. The more we go on increasing such troublesome industries to squeeze out the vital energy of human being, the more there will be unrest and dissatisfaction of people in general. So by not depending on industry, actually we will help in reduction. It's actually indirect preaching or indirect social, welfare. Because it creates unrest and dissatisfaction for people in general, although few can live lavishly by exploitation. The natural gifts such as grains and vegetables, fruits, rivers, hills of jewels, minerals, and seas full of pearls. Where do pearls come from? Seas. Are all supplied by the order of the Supreme. And as he desires, material nature produces them in abundance or restricts them. So we will see this, when Prithu Maharaj in pastime comes, that the earth is holding back. The natural law is that the human being may take advantage of these godly gifts by nature and satisfactorily flourish on them without being captivated by the exploitative motive of lording it over material nature. Which means that we don't try to use these for our own sense gratification. That is lording over. But we use these for the service of the Lord. The more we attempt to exploit material nature according to our whims of enjoyment, the more we shall become entrapped by the reactions of such exploitative attempts. And so we become part of the reaction, or we will have to bear a part of the reaction. And so we have to decrease this dependency on industry as much as possible. It has to be a focused effort. So it's always good to buy as much as things as possible from devotees, organic, known sources which are not exploitative, especially milk, cow products, grains, as much, organic through known sources. Don't go to some shop saying organic. If you know the devotee who is selling those, and that devotee should know the sources of these, where he's getting from, if they're actually protected communities, which are following sattvic ways of farming, etc., etc. So knowing that we should get, and we should encourage that, right? Because that way we will discourage the industries and encourage, devotees and their devotee setups to actually move away from this, godless civilization. We should try to encourage those. अथ विश्वेश विश्वात्मन् विश्वमूर्ते स्वकेषु मे स्नेहपाशम् इमं चिन्धि दृढं पाण्डुषु वृष्णिषु. Now she's saying, O Lord of the universe, soul of the universe, O personality of the form of the universe, please therefore sever my tie of affection for my kinsmen Pandavas and Vishnu. So now she's actually saying, why did I talk about this protection, asking you for protection of Vrishnis, Pandavas, asking you why you're leaving? Because I have my affection towards my kinsmen. So she's saying, sever it, cut it off. I know that this is not good, but like I said, because she's anyway, it's a whole devotee family, right? It's not material, but she still thinks that it is preventing her from actually not asking anything from the Lord. So Prabhupada writes a very beautiful purport here. A pure devotee of the Lord is ashamed to ask anything in self-interest from the Lord. But the householders are sometimes obliged to ask favors from the Lord, being bound by the tie of family affection. Householders are sometimes obliged to ask favors, being bound by the tie of family affection. Srimati Kunti Devi was conscious of this fact, and therefore she prayed to the Lord to cut off the affectionate tie from her own kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. The Pandavas are her own sons, and the Vrishnis are the members of her paternal family. Krishna was equally related to both families. Both the families required Lord's help because both were dependent devotees of the Lord. Srimati Kunti Devi wished Sri Krishna to remain with her sons, the Pandavas, but by his doing so, her paternal house would be bereft of the benefit. Meaning, if he's here, he's not in Dwarka. So she's thinking, if I hold him back here, then they will be bereft of the benefit. All these partialities troubled the mind of Kunti, and therefore she desired to cut off the affectionate tie. Okay. A pure devotee cuts off the limited ties of affection for his family and widens his activities of devotional service for all forgotten souls. Now we have to understand this properly. Right? It's not that we have to take sannyas. And those are very few people who become qualified to take sannyas after grihastha. Right? But what this means, a pure devotee cuts off limited ties of affection, meaning he doesn't, he doesn't look at his family from a material perspective. He looks at his family as family of devotees, and like he is engaging in the service of the Lord, they're also engaged in the service of the Lord. Right? So material affection is reduced, spiritual affection is increased, and how that the spiritual affection comes out as compassion to other living souls. So what does he do? He widens his activities of devotional service. So we should understand, if we are on the pure path, then we don't tie ourselves up with material responsibilities. Many times we tend to engage ourselves in so-called material responsibilities. Actually, they're not material responsibilities, but we have tied ourselves, right? I mean, I can speak because I have a daughter, and many times you say, okay, join this class, join that class. Now, all of these are actually taking them away from Krishna, unless they are Krishna conscious classes. If they're asking your son or daughter to join a Mridanga class, or, Krishna's fun school, or, something which is going to learning shlokas, etc., etc. Then, yeah, whatever effort we put to help them go to that class, bring them back, etc., all that is spiritual and it's glorious. But we will put our children in some material stuff. And then we'll say, okay, this is now my responsibility. No, it's not my responsibility. First of all, I'm doing disservice. I'm not doing my responsibility by putting my child in a path which is going to take him away from Krishna. Because that's not my duty as a parent. As a parent, my duty is to make sure that this is the last life of that soul that is born as a son or daughter or wife, etc. in our house. And if we are willingly engaging them in material activities, then we're actually doing disservice. So in the name of affection for the family, we are ending up doing actually things that are not required at all. And then we hold ourselves, we say, I'm so busy, I have so much of responsibilities. I'm telling this because most of us have children and we are all mostly in that stage, except maybe few. Right? So we should reduce this. We should reduce unnecessary material activities. Please underline this, unnecessary. How do we know what is necessary, what is unnecessary? We have to then talk to devotees and understand. And we have to widen, which widen means what? Basically give more time for Krishna. You have to widen activities of devotional service, and we have to limit material activities related to family. Of course, there are material activities that we will have to be forced to be engaged in because we are in this Kali Yuga material world. We are in a city, so we will have some, but we should not expand it. We should expand Krishna's service. So now another, beautiful statement. Prabhupada is saying, it is sometimes experienced that the Lord, out of his special affinity towards a weak devotee, who is a weak devotee, Hridaya Daurbalyam, whose heart is not strong, who is not fixed to follow the orders of Guru and Krishna. So he is weak devotee in his mind, but he has desire to serve the Lord purely. He has desire, but he is just weak-minded. What will Krishna do in those cases? He breaks the family affection by force of circumstances arranged by his all-powerful energy. By doing so, he causes the devotee to become completely dependent on him and thus clears the path for his going back to Godhead. So Lord removes our material attachments. When will he do that? Don't have to worry, he will not do it for everybody. He will only do it for those devotees who have a pure desire to perfect their life in this lifetime. But still, because of their previous conditioning, which results in weak mind, etc., they are not able to. They are stuck with attachment to material things, material relations, etc. Krishna will take it away. But this is special mercy. Huh? This sometimes experience. It's a special affinity. Doesn't happen to everybody. But if something like that happens in your life, first thing, remember, Krishna is looking towards you. Krishna's mercy has come your way. So it's not a reason for becoming unhappy or upset. It's a reason to rejoice that out of millions of jivas, Krishna is turned towards you and is willing to give you mercy. A beautiful place to be in. And we'll always feel the presence of Krishna in our life then. In anything and everything that is happening. Though it takes time. I mean, when we go through these kind of situations, we find it very difficult. We find it very difficult to deal with it, because we completely look at it materially. But when we read these purports, and then those who are going through difficulties, serious difficulties, then they realize, oh, this is to cut off this attachment I have. This is to cut off that attachment I have. Oh, this is glorious. Now I'm becoming closer to Krishna. Because it clears the path to go back to Godhead. So this is so many beautiful points. That's the reason this first canto is so dear to me. It's amazing purports Prabhupada has written. Amazing purports. Second canto, after half, it goes into a lot of creation and technical stuff, and we might not be able to completely appreciate it immediately, right? But first canto is just bliss nectar. All the beautiful purports Prabhupada has written, just nectar. त्वयि विषया मतिर्मधुपते सकृत् रतिम् उद्वहताद् अद्धा गङ्गेवौघम् मुदन्वती. O Lord of Madhu, as a Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. So this is her actual desire, right? So she's saying, I seem to be attached to my kinsmen. Cut it off. I don't want all this. In one sense, I am just doing this because it's my duty to take care of them. But she's saying, no, my only desire is that my attraction, not my attention. Please note this word, attraction. So Prabhupada is this word here, ratim udvahatad. Asakrit ratim. Ratim means attraction. That attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. Or anything else, literally. Here in this case, there's no question of anything else. So she's saying, let my attraction not get diverted even towards Pandavas or Vrishnis. Let it be focused only on you. So this is the state that we have to come to. First of all, we should understand this is attraction, which means Ado Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivrutti, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava. So these higher levels, Asakti, Ruchi, Bhava, this is where attraction starts. Rati, Bhava is also called Rati. So we have to first of all come to that stage, and that when we actually come to that stage, that attraction will remain fixed on Krishna. And I've told this before, but it's a real inspiration for me when I think about this statement. And I quoted this before. Madhurya Kadambini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes about different stages of bhakti, and in that he says that in this higher Asakti, Ruchi, I think in Ruchi, Asakti mostly, one of them, I can't remember. So he says that in the lower mode, when we have to think about Krishna, our mind gets diverted to think about material things. In the higher, stages of bhakti, we have to think about material things, but our mind refuses. It just switches back to thinking about Krishna. Right? So today we are chanting. Suddenly my mind think about I have to go here, I have to go there. In those higher stages, I have to actually think, okay, I have to go to that place, but I just refuse. Oh, forget it. It's okay with see. And just engaged in thinking about Krishna. So automatically mind reverse switches from material to spiritual. So in that stage, there is no question of mind getting deviated to anything else. And that is the stage we have to come to, right? Perfection of pure devotional service is attained when all attention is diverted towards the transcendental loving service of the Lord. To cut off the tie of all other affections does not mean negation of the finer elements like affection for someone else. Is what I was trying to say. This is not possible. We cannot just cut off affection. Then we'll become a stone. A living being, whoever he may be, must have this feeling of affection for others because this is a symptom of life. The symptoms of life, such as desire, anger, hankerings, feelings of attraction, etc., cannot be annihilated. We cannot destroy them. Only the objective has to be changed. Desire cannot be negated. But in devotional service, the desire is changed only for the service of the Lord in place of desire for sense gratification. The so-called affection for family, society, country, etc. consists of different phases of sense gratification. When this desire is changed for the satisfaction of the Lord, it is called devotional service. Now, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes Sharanagati. Now, some of these we'll be hearing it repeatedly in my classes because we have to just fix some of these thoughts in our mind very, nicely so that we never forget this. So in Sharanagati, there's a sequence of beautiful poems that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written. So in that he says that Atma Nivedana means that I consider myself as the servant of the house. So I'm the servant of the house, and in the house there are other devotees. So which means that I have to serve all these devotees and serve whatever is the devotional activities that are happening in the house. That is my seva. So I don't look at this house as my house or for sense gratification. I look at this house as just a temple and other devotees in the house as temple inmates, not my wife, my children, etc. This has to be our mood, because then our so-called affection will not be for sense gratification, but because it will be for the satisfaction of the Lord, it becomes devotional service. And that is the mood in which we have to live in our house. Saying that this is a temple of the Lord. This is Atma Nivedanam. Sharanagati. 6 aspects of Sharanagati. Anukulisa Sankalpa, Pratikulisa Varjanam, Rakshishati Vishwaso, Goptratva Varnam Tata, Atma Nikshepa or Atma Nivedanam. But Atma Nikshepa means living like this. Prabhupada is saying our attention is usually diverted to the service of something which is non-godly. We should note this. Usually our attention gets diverted to something which is non-godly. Means what? Not in the program of the Lord. Not part of the program of the Lord. It's just our program for sense gratification. So Kunti Maharani here is praying, no, I don't want any of this. Just cut off everything. Let my attraction just be unto you. Let it not go anywhere else. Shri Krishna Krishna Sakha Vrishni Vrishabhavani Drug Rajanya Vamshadhana Napavarga Virya Govinda Godvija Surarti Haravatara Yogeshwara Kila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. Oh Krishna, Shri Krishna, Krishna Sakha. Krishna Krishna Sakha. Oh Krishna, friend of Arjuna. Vrishni, descendant of Vrishni. Rishabha, chief, best. You are the destroyer of those political parties which are disturbing elements on this earth. Your prowess never deteriorates. You are the proprietor of the transcendental abode. and you descend to relieve the distresses of the cows, brahmanas, and devotees. You possess all mystic powers, and you are the protector of the entire universe. You are the Almighty God, and I offer my respectful obeisance. So she's concluding her prayers by summarizing Krishna's position, and she's offering respectful obeisances. So one thing, respectful obeisances. So Krishna says, Manmanam bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. So this namaskuru, what is this namaskuru? So as soon as we enter a temple, we offer dandavats to all the devotees. Then we have to offer obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. Then we offer obeisances to the lordships. And when we are coming out of the temple, we do in the reverse order, right? We offer obeisances to lordships. Then we offer obeisances to Prabhupada. And then we offer obeisances to Vaishnavas and go. Every time we come into the temple, we have to do this. Not just once. That itself is indication that we are surrendered. And we have to offer obeisances to Guru and Krishna with our heart on the left side, with the Lord on our left side, or with Guru on the left side. The indication that I'm offering my heart to you, which means I'm surrendered to you. I'm going to follow your instructions. That is the mood. This is part of Vaishnava etiquette. Shruta uvacha prathayetam kalappadai parinutakilodayah mandam jahasa vaikuntho mohayan nivamayaya. Sutta Goswami said, the Lord, thus hearing the prayers of Kunti Devi, composed in choice words for his glorification, mildly smiled. That smile was as enchanting as his mystic power. The Lord's smile is always very enchanting. When the devotee looks at the form of the Lord, deity form of the Lord, and when he comes to the face, the first thing that attracts the devotee is the smile of Krishna. Krishna is always smiling. And it's enchanting. Many times, you can try this. Yeah, I'm sure you would have already tried it. If you are in any kind of distress, or, we are unhappy, or whatever, mostly it will be material reasons. If we come to the stage where we are unhappy for spiritual reasons, then we have made progress, but mostly it will be for material reasons. And when we are unhappy due to material reasons, all we have to do is look at the beautiful smile of Krishna. Right? So I've had this habit for a long time. I have a very big Radha Madhav photo in my room, and every now and then I make it a point to look at the Krishna's beautiful face. So it just fills us with happiness, just by looking at Krishna. And so his smile is so enchanting. Anyway, we'll come to this in the 10th canto, how his smile is enchanting. But for us, just by looking at Krishna's smile, we can forget everything else. It's so enchanting. Not written any other points here. Upamantria pravishya gajasa pavayam striyascha swapuram yasyan premna ragna nivaritaha. Thus, accepting the prayers of Srimati Kunti Devi, the Lord subsequently informed other ladies of his departure, entering the palace of Hastinapura. But upon preparing to leave, he was stopped by King Yudhishthira, who implored him lovingly. So here Prabhupada is saying, no one could make Krishna stay at Hastinapur when he decided to start for Dwarka. But the simple request of King Yudhishthira that the Lord remain there for a few days was immediately effective. This signifies that the power of King Yudhishthira was loving affection, which the Lord could not deny. But the Lord had other intentions also, and because he wanted to be there for at the time when Bhishma Dev is going to leave his body, he wanted Yudhishthira Maharaj to come out of he was stuck in thought process, saying that because of me, so many crores of people have been killed. So he was in deep distress. So he wanted to pull Yudhishthira out of that. He wanted him to hear instructions of Bhishma Dev. He wanted to be present in front of Bhishma Dev when Bhishma Dev leaves his body, because that was Bhishma Dev's requirement, desire, and he was a pure devotee. The Lord had all this plan. Right. So externally, Yudhishthira became the cause for holding back Krishna, saying that please don't go. So Lord knows the feelings of his devotees. Vyasadhyerishvare Agnai Krishnenadbhuta Karmana Prabodhito Piti Hasair Buddhyata Shucharpitaha. King Yudhishthira was much aggrieved, could not be convinced. Despite instructions by great sages headed by Vyasa and Lord Krishna himself, the performer of superhuman feats, and despite all historic evidence, he was much aggrieved because so many people had been killed. And here it says, even Krishna himself is the performer of superhuman feats, but he couldn't convince Yudhishthira. How is that possible? Does that mean that Krishna is not performer of superhuman feats? No, it was just Krishna's desire that Bhishma Dev becomes the cause for convincing Yudhishthira. So he externally tried, but didn't want Yudhishthira to be convinced by his words. So he was aggrieved. So many 64, 6, how much is this? 100,000, 10,000 lakh, 10 lakh, 40 lakhs, 6 crores, right? 6.4 crore men were killed in 18 days. And some hundreds of thousands were missing. Practically, this was the greatest battle in the world within 5,000 years. World War Zero. So nobody could convince him. He was very upset. He was very grieved, sad that because of me, this has happened. Because it was not because of him, it was Dharma Samsthapanarthaya. But Yudhishthira was in that mood. Aharaja Dharma Sutas Chintayan Suhridam Vadam Prakritena Atmana Vipraha Sneham Moha Vasham Gataha. Yudhishthira, son of Dharma, overwhelmed by the death of his friends, was aggrieved just like a common materialistic man. O sages, thus deluded by affection, he began to speak. Oh me pashyatagnanam tadirudham duratmanaha parakyasya dehasya papyo me kshaunihirnhataha. King Yudhishthira said, "Oh my lord, I am the most sinful man. Just see my heart, which is full of ignorance. This body, which is ultimately meant for others, has killed many, many phalanxes of men. So many people have been killed because of me." Prabhupada in the purport says what phalanx means. So many chariots, elephants, infantry, cavalry. He's saying ultimately this body is meant for others. Meant for others. Because when the body gets killed, when person dies, the body becomes food for, here it says that either it will be burnt or it will be food for to be eaten by dogs, jackals, or maggots, means some kind of worms. So it's actually meant for service of others. Even while there is life also, it is service. And when it is dead also, it is for the service of others. Body is after all meant for others. Right? So this is an important thing. But normally people in this material world live thinking that the body is meant for their happiness. And we are self-centered in trying to. So see these statements, I missed this, but then I come back and add it when I find statements like this. So this is a killer, right? So now it guides all actions of our, how we use our body, mind, everything. It is meant for others, right? When we live also, it's service for others. When we die also, it's for service of others. So he's feeling very bad that, why? Because of that body, which is meant for others, has killed so many phalanxes. Meaning I became responsible for this. Baladvija Suhran Mitra Pitrabhratar Gurudruhaha Namesyan Nirayan Moksho Yapi Varsha Yutaihi. I have killed many boys, brahmanas, well-wishers, friends, parents, preceptors, brothers. Though I live millions of years, I will not be relieved from the hell that awaits me for all these sins. So he's just thinking that he did a very sinful act by killing all these people. Just momentarily again, Yudhishthira is an illusion. by the desire of the Lord, just like Arjuna was. Naino Ragna Praja Bhartur Dharma Yuddhe Vadodvisham Iti Mena Tu Bodhaya Kalpate Shasanam Vachaha. There's no sin for a king who kills for the right cause, who is engaged in maintaining his citizens. But this injunction is not applicable to me. So he's thinking he's not upholding dharma by this war. Trinam Madhada Bandhunam Droho Yosha Yuhotitaha Karma Bhirgrahame Dhiyer Naham Kalpo Vyapohitum. I have killed many friends of women and have thus caused enmity to such an extent that is not possible to undo by material welfare work. Friends of women means husbands, sons, fathers, like that. And all of them have been killed. That is not possible to undo by any material work. What is this material work? This is prashchita, right? So you can do karma kanda allows you to do certain things which can become as prashchita, repentance for some wrong thing that one has done. And it can give a benefit. It can, that particular sin can be excused. But here is saying that any kind of work, nothing is going to help me from this bondage. Just done such a sinful activity that no other karma can help me out, right? So he's just talking on the platform of Vedas, and he's saying such a sinful activity I cannot be protected by any other form of yagna or karma. Yatha pankena pankambha Puraya vasurakratam bhuta hatyam tathai vaikam nayagner marstum arhati. As it is not possible to filter muddy water through mud or purify wine tainted pot with wine, it is not possible to counteract the killing of men by sacrificing animals. So this Ashwamedha Yagna, Gomedha Yagnas, there is all for the purpose, killing of animals. And like it said that if somebody is you can do so many Ashwamedha Yagnas and it becomes like Prayashchita. So he's saying none of those will work, right? Because I've done something really ghora, very extremely sinful. So he's just lamenting in this way. And Krishna wanted him to enter into this state because he wanted him to get guidance from Bhishma Dev. Just like Arjuna was put into similar illusion, and because Bhagavad Gita had to come, Yudhishthira also was put into similar illusion so that Bhishma Dev can speak say his words, right? And this is a beautiful part of Mahabharata. Bhishma gives his instructions, Bhishma Parva. Okay, so with this, we end this 8th chapter entitled Prayers by Queen Kunti and Parikshit, saved. So tomorrow we will start chapter 9. Yeah, so if there are any questions, ask. Otherwise, at the end, you can please recount important points that you heard. First, we'll see if anybody has any question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, Raju.
Prabhu, yeah, you told one point like how to for our child how we need to choose the schools and all. So, for example, I have one doubt here, like where the city we are living, whatever the schools we are having, those schools are all, I mean, their main motto is like grabbing more and more money rather than giving the education. And there are no like ISKCON schools are there. So in this case, how we need to, like how to understand or how we need to take the decision, our daughter or son, which school we need to choose and how we need to, I mean, we are not getting, Prabhu, this one.
Okay, so let me give you the ideal answer, right? Then I will give you a practical answer. Ideal answer is what we may or may not be able to follow, depends on what our state of surrender is, right? Or our responsibilities, etc., how much we are bound to this city. So the ideal answer is to actually grihasthas moving away from cities. That is the ideal answer, right? And move to farm communities. That is the reason these farm communities are there, and people who stay there very easily are able to follow these instructions, right? Because we are in city, we are struggling, right? That is the ideal solution. Wherein for boys they are sent to Gurukul, for girls they are trained at home in various arts and basics of Sri Dharma, and subsequently they are married to other devotees and they continue to live in a simple setup. This is the ideal. In fact, my spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, encourages all newly married people to go to farm if possible, because they'll start their whole life. Their children will be born in that community, and there's no question of any kind of contamination at all. So it's very simple, no confusion, no complication. Now, for those who are already stuck in city for various reasons, now, first of all, we have to think whether that our reason is valid or not. Many times it won't be, but anyway. So for boys still, for boys, right? I mean, if you have a boy child, and still the ideal is to send him to a Gurukul, and there are enough Gurukuls. They are not in Bangalore, but they're outside Bangalore, and it's ideal. It's ideal to not waste the Jiva's life, human life, and let him achieve perfection. Let him go to Gurukul, study, and if you can remain a brahmachari, then your life becomes perfect as a father, mother. Now, if that is not possible, and I know of devotees who are doing homeschooling for girls. Why devotees? I mean, even there are karmis also who are doing homeschooling nowadays. Their view is there's a lot of time wasted by reading unnecessary, useless things which are of no use. I also know devotees who are doing homeschooling for their children, sons, daughters, homeschooling, right? And it's better than sending children to schools and colleges. Right, but it might not. It depends on the mindset of the nature of the child, nature of parents, etc., etc. Right. There are some Sattvic schools, like for example, there's one here in Girinagar. I know. What is that? Arnath? I can't remember the name.
Yeah, I think Purna Prajya school. Yes,
Not Pragya, something else. It's called like. Prabhu, yeah, Harnath Prabhu.
Purna Sammati.
Purna Pramata, I think. Purna Pramata. So it's a reasonably Sattvic school. Then who are Brahmin born? You can send your children to Madhvacharyas. They have set up. Right. So there are options. There are also devotees. Some devotees I know who have started some projects in and around Bangalore, but it's alternate education they call it. But there is still contamination of modern lifestyle, but it's still better than full-fledged normal schools, right? So I know of a couple of devotees who I think they're part of, they used to go to ICC. I mean, I don't know where they are now. They've started some kind of alternate education. There are other places outside Bangalore, right, where there is this alternate education which has come up. So there are possibilities, but if you are very strict and restricted to only Bangalore, obviously the options are very less. But there are options. But for all this, basic thing is we have to be convinced. We have to be convinced about this path. Our faith in Krishna consciousness will decide what path we will take. One of our devotees, in Hulimavu, so he wants to become a brahmachari, right? And I'm so happy for that. He's just finished his 10th and he wants to become a brahmachari. And, last time when Maharaj was in Bangalore, I told that it, because if it goes to Maharaj, then Maharaj will bless him. And I'm sure he'll become a brahmachari. Right? So these things are also possible in city. It's not that it's not possible, right? But it depends on our level of surrender. Based on our level of surrender, we can make things happen. As in, we can become instruments, and then these things will happen. Right? Yeah. The easy path is just follow the masses, right? Yeah, it's easy because you don't have to fight. But otherwise, Krishna consciousness is a fight, right? And we know that, and it will expand into other aspects of our life also. And so devotees want to take it easy and say, oh my God, already chanting, reading, eating prasadam, these things are only a big fight. Now I don't want to take on other things which are going to make my life more miserable. But that's a very narrow, self-centered kind of view. We are not thinking about our children. After so many years, we have struggled to come to bhakti, and we are trying hard to practice. And many people talk about balancing material life and spiritual life. Why do we want to put our kids through the same thing? I mean, worst case, they might even just go away from bhakti, right? Which is the worst thing to do, right? In best case is they'll also come back to the same state as we are in, and try to balance material and spiritual. When we know it's so it's not the ideal, right? So if we are convinced about Krishna consciousness, we should try and give the best possible outcome for our children. But for that, we have to reduce this attachment on the material platform. Otherwise, we'll think, oh, how can I live without my son or daughter with me, or whatever, right? Those kind of things have to be put aside, and we should see really what is most beneficial for our children and take those decisions. But definitely, unnecessary material, activities are not required, right? Like, I mean, yeah, sending them to this class, that class, as long as it helps in progressing their Krishna consciousness. For example, if it's sattvic activities, like for example, a girl learning dancing, very good, learning singing, very good, learning some instrument, very good, right? But everything else is just waste, right? Most of the other things are just waste of time. And yeah, so those things at least we should avoid. And then of course we have more faith. First is the demonstration of faith is by preventing children from going into all these so-called courses or classes that everybody else makes their children join, right? At least we should first stop them. Then we can see if we can move forward and take more bolder Krishna conscious decisions for our children.
Thank you, Prabhu. It really helps.
Yeah, in some sense, it's a generic answer I've given, because every person's situation is different. So I would not think that this should apply to everybody. But based on individual situations, somebody can think what works best for them. But yeah.
So one more thing, like you said, when we enter the temple, first we need to pay obeisances for Vaishnavas, not full Dandavat, half Dandavat,
Panchanga,
right, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Then Prabhupada, then deities, then again while leaving deities, Prabhupada, then again Vaishnavas, right?
Yeah.
Prabhu?
Yeah.
So for Prabhupada, we need to do from left side, right, Prabhu?
Both Prabhupada has to be on the left side. Deities also have to be on our left side.
Okay. Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare.
Yeah, some other time I will take a session on Vaishnava etiquette, but I don't want to break the flow of Bhagavatam, so we'll go ahead with this. We'll see some special class week.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. There are no questions. I know we've already extended beyond 9. Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
Mataji. No, please,
Next
please.
time maybe. Okay.
No.
This
I wanted devotees to share their learnings, but if there are questions, we'll be happy to.
one small. Oh my Lord. Lord here means.
Lord,
Vishnu.
just it's a old English. You can. I mean, I'm not like an expert in English, but we can look up. It's a old way of. Oh my Lord. It's some way of, I think, showing respect, I think, or love. I don't know. One of those. Which verse was that? What is the Sanskrit? Let me see. Which verse was that?
1.8.48. 48.
Aho. It's just oh. It's like that, oh. Aho. For aho, Prabhupada has translated as oh my Lord. You can look up. I mean, not an expert in English.
Is it destiny or fate? I was relating it to that. I don't know.
No. Because here it just says aho. The Sanskrit word is aho. Aho me pashyata. Aho means oh. Like in English, oh. You just say oh. So it could have just been oh. I'm the most sinful man. But for some reason, Prabhupada has said, oh my Lord. I'm sure like there's some English thingy behind it, right? So, yeah.
Yes. And one more thing, Prabhuji,
Yeah.
when Kunti Maharani was praying, Lord decided to leave.
Hmm.
And when Yudhishthir Maharaj came,
Good. I wanted
so,
somebody to ask that question. Yeah. I answered it, but anyway, it's a good observation. So Mataji's question is, Kunti Maharani. Kunti Maharani said, be here, don't go. But then Krishna just smiled. And then he was about to leave. Then Yudhishthir Maharaj said, you will stay. Then Yudhishthir Maharaj, then Krishna stayed. Why? I answered that already, because Krishna had other intentions, right? And that Yudhishthira's being the main focus now for his remaining, because he wanted his illusion for him to come out of his illusion. So he wanted to be there for Yudhishthir. So Yudhishthir just became the cause for him to remain. Right? So it's not like Kunti Maharani's love is less or more compared to Yudhishthir. So we don't have to think about any of that. It's absolutely same, but Lord has his own, reasons for whatever he does. And in this case, because his remaining possibly would be more centered around, for reason would have been Yudhishthir Maharaj. So that situation was created. That's all. Good observation.
yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, when we read these things should come to our mind, saying that, is it that Kunti Maharani's love was inferior, or why didn't Krishna say yes there? Why he said yes here? Yeah, nice. Okay. So just 5 minutes, maybe 3-4 minutes, if devotees want to just share their key takeaways. Quickly, anybody?
The perfection of life is to become dependent on the will of Lord,
Okay,
Sanatha, instead of becoming falsely independent.
very nice. Verbatim. Yeah, that's good. It has to be verbatim always, because then it will stick. It means what Prabhupada has written, we should try to remember that sentence as it is. Okay, then. What else? So many points were there. Yeah, Arnath Prabhu. Arnath Prabhu should share. He would have made like 50 points in his notes. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, reduce unnecessary material activity
Reduce unnecessary
and
material activities.
reduce input from industries.
Industry, dependence on industry. Very good.
And body is meant for service, even though
Service
living
of
and
others. Yes, very nice. See, why I ask this is that these things you will try to then implement in your life. So I want to see what all we have gathered for our own personal application. That's the reason I ask. Right? Say, share your learnings at the end of the session. So feel free to participate. There's nothing like right or wrong. It'll just make us more, the Shravanam will be more effective. That's all. Always nice to summarize for ourselves what we heard. Okay. Anyway, if there's nothing else anybody else wants to share, I can conclude. Tomorrow, Krishna willing, 8:30 p.m. We'll start chapter 9. Okay. Stop. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनन्तकोटि वैष्णववृन्द की जय। हरे कृष्ण।
Dandvat